How has your spirit grown since the devastating loss that caused you grief?
What if I told you that there's more to it? That there are benefits and resources from heaven that are available to help you in this life, and you've never heard about them? Are you curious? Well, join Gordon Merrill as he digs deeper into making heaven real in this life.
Welcome back to Making Heaven Real. In recent weeks, we've covered a lot of topics, and a lot of that seems to slowly start coming together on the other end of that now, but let's kind of review a few things that we've been going over. We reviewed our origin as heavenly spirits that God sent to earth and put in a human form. We reviewed our life's plan and our spiritual eternal lessons plan. We reviewed the effects of grief on our human bodies. And we reviewed a grief toolkit that we can use to help others who are in grief with the same kind of support we would have liked to have had. But mostly we reviewed that we are heavenly spirits in human form, here to live through and gain knowledge from a human experience. The prophet Isaiah in the Bible even referred to it when he said, "Before I was born, the Lord called me, and from my mother's womb, he has spoken my name." Doesn't sound like we wait until the human is born and a viable baby in the mother's arms before we, number one, either name it or before the Lord even recognizes that it's here. Before I was born, the Lord called me. Sounds like taking a spirit, putting it in human form and sending it to earth for a mission, which we've already talked about. But as a part of all of this that we've just reviewed over the last couple of weeks, last week we kind of looked at this more from the standpoint of the spiritual qualities from the different cardinal coordinates across several cultures. Last week we looked at North and how Chinese culture and North American, Native American culture reviewed and looked at the characteristics of the North. Today, let's look at the spiritual significance of the West. The Native American looks at that as not only a place of a sunset, but because of the sunset, it looks at it as a place of introspection and where the ancestors go. The Egyptian culture calls it the realm of the dead. Celtic looks at it as the land of the other world, or the place of spiritual transition. And the Chinese look at it as autumn, or the place of letting go. If we start combining a lot of the information that comes to us from the different cultures, we start to picture an energetic framework for spiritual communication. We just talked about the Celtic looking at this as a land of the other world and spiritual transition. And the Egyptians looking at it as the realm of the dead. And Native Americans looking at it as the place of the ancestors. So the spirit communication, by looking towards the West, seems to come to us through all cultures. If there was a random story in one culture that wasn't replicated in all cultures from way back before there was internet and wireless communication and even wired telegraph and telegram, one story in one culture would be one thing, but to have all the cultures have the same story passed down from ancestors tends to make you take note and recognize it. So most of these cultures look at the West as a origin of the point of communication or the thinning of the veil. Or in several cultures, that is where we return to the inner world. Hang on to that thought, because we're coming back to that in a minute. Native Americans believe that the outer world dissolves in the West, partly because they see the sunset, they see the place where that's where the ancestors are, that's where people go when they pass. So the outer world dissolves there, but then that's where the inner world also awakens. Back to that inner world again, which we'll discuss in detail in a little bit. Lots of people in the world try to connect to spirit by reaching out. But the West teaches us to do this in an opposite. Spirit's not outside. It's not to the West. Spirit is here, inside ourselves. So that's where the inner world is. Our inner world is the spirit within us. Sound familiar? The spirit that Isaiah said the Lord knew and called before he was even a human. Okay, that's the inner world. That's that spirit that's within us that came to earth in this human form for this life's plan. But the spirit within us encompasses a lot of things. And here's the points that you want to try and remember for later on, because we're working through them slowly. But the spirit within us encompasses the emotional body, the intuitive body, the imagination, the memory field, the quiet self inside us, and our soul's listening place. So there's a lot involved in that spirit that's in us. The West helps us to go from the outer world to the inner world by dissolving the outer world, focusing more on the inner world and letting that inner world awaken. Because that inner world connects our spirits with us. That inner world's where our STC talks to us, works with us, communicates with us. Our inner world is what's been known as the first spirit world, or the first level of the spirit world. It's the one that's inside of us. It's our emotional truth. We just mentioned emotion, remember? But that inner world is our emotional truth. And the West uses that emotional body to form a bridge between those who are living and those who have transitioned. The bridge between the living and our loved one. So that emotional body helps to bring our loved one closer to us. If it's the bridge between us and the loved one, when we feel a longing or a warmth or just a sudden little wave of tears or a memory, that's not just our emotions getting the better of us. That is a contact point. This is not an obstacle. It's a sacred channel. It's not something that's happening to us where we're having problems, quote unquote, there's the air quotes again, quote unquote, dealing with grief. But it's become our sacred channel. It's not our imagination, but our inner world, our inner focus has landscapes, it has textures, it has weather, thresholds, doorways, currents. It's a real energy environment. It's just a different reality. So when you close your eyes and you turn inward and you start to enter this space and you start thinking about what's inside and blocking out all of the things that are outside, that's where you internally are focusing on the West. But the West has a couple different characteristics. The West is the direction of descent. Not that we're going down or going down an elevator, but going inward. Descending deeper, softer, quieter, and more receptive. It teaches us to sink into ourselves and block out the other world for a while. And there's where we find memories, intuition, a subtle voice, and that emotional echo we were just talking about. We feel a sense of whoever we are trying to tap into. It is not a collapse of our personality, but it's a return to the person we're trying to connect to. The West is also a direction of surrender. Can you imagine the Native Americans along the Trail of Tears being forced to head west, where they had to surrender to the Great Spirit under those conditions? Surrender is real. It's not giving up. It's allowing yourself to be a part of where you are. It's like a softening. It's a way to allow you to receive and to trust. Let the moment that you're having when you're feeling inward and you're having this emotional response, let that lead you so that this effort to feel your loved one deepens within you and teaches you. It teaches you to let go and let God be able to convey to you that you feel the Spirit. We talked not too long ago about there's no such thing as coincidence. Your spirit's here on a life's plan. It's a plan that you were a part of. It's a plan that you agreed to and signed off on before you came to earth. Kind of back like when Isaiah was talking about God calling him before he was in his mother's womb. What you were expected to do, or what you were wanting to do, and what you were wanting to accomplish in this lifetime was a joint effort between you, your spirit team, and God. So there's no coincidence. It's all a part of your plan. I'm going to take this one step further this time, and I'm going to come up with another topic that may kind of cause you to do some thinking. If there's no coincidence, can we also say that there's no real deja vu? Now hang with me for a minute and let me try and explain why I'm saying this. Let's go back to our example of the college class. Let's say our spirit is fully devoted to this degree program, which is our overall spiritual plan. And we find ourselves in this lifetime in a 4th year class. Do we really need to go back and learn a lesson that we learned in the 2nd year class? For example, in year 2, if you took and passed trigonometry 1, so that now you're in the 4th year and you're in trigonometry 2, do you really need to go back and learn everything that you learned in trig 1? No. But in this particular lifetime, your human form may not fully remember everything that you learned in trig 1. But you don't need to go back and learn it again because you've already been there. So what if deja vu is nothing more than your ancestors, your spirit team, providing you with a download that provides you the information you need in this lifetime to complete the class that you're currently working on in this human form? Now, what you may remember is some part of that that's like a memory or a picture or something from that particular lifetime that provides you with this, quote, deja vu, which is the part that your conscious mind recognizes from this download. Now, if you're thoroughly confused, let me give you a quick example that I think will help to explain that. Years ago, I had several very distinct, strong images that came to me. Didn't make any sense with anything I'd ever seen before, knew of, or experienced, at least not in this life. What I was picturing was a town, streets, houses, farmland, all kinds of things that I'd never seen before. Even to the point where I was trying to figure out where this imagery was coming from and where I may have seen this previously in my lifetime. And finally, it actually came to me that this was from a town I had never been to, in a state that I had barely been to because I'd only been to the larger city in that state or traveled through it on interstate. At the time, I talked about it with my wife, and we talked it over a good bit and started comparing notes and trying to look up some things and do some research to see if we could find out where this was all coming from. And eventually, we took a vacation one year and went in the direction of that state and then in the direction of that town. And decided that a part of our vacation, we would spend a couple days in that town and do some looking around and just see if any of that made sense. What we found was 2 or 3 things. Not only did we find exactly in detail the items that I had recognized from the imagery of certain architectural details inside the city, but also knew exactly what stoplight to make a left-hand turn to go out the road I had pictured. Knew exactly how far out that road I would find houses on the side of that road that were the ones I had pictured. But even more interesting was as we arrived to the city limits, was finding out how that emotionally affected my body. You know, we talked earlier at the beginning of the episode about the things that your spirit encompasses with the emotional, intuitive, imagination, memory. The emotional effect of my body when we drove into that town indicated a connection. Being able to literally, intuitively tell her where to turn. My wife wanted to drive so that I could take in what we were seeing when we first arrived. And I could tell her exactly where to turn to go find what I was looking for. In a city I'd never been, in a state that I had barely been into, but not anywhere near this part of the state, and found exactly what we were looking for. Now you say, well, you know, towns are towns, architecture's about the same for those time periods. You know, what makes you think this is anything any different? What was important to me in this particular time frame, in this particular previous life, was out this road where the houses were that I found. On the other side of the road was nothing but farmland at that lifetime. And the thing that was different about this was down this entire road was a string of houses and not a driveway on that road. Every one of those houses, the driveway came up from behind the house off of an alleyway. It's a very distinct characteristic that's different from most towns and most cities. Primarily, most of those houses at that point in time were there for housing the workers who worked on the large farm. And those houses were exactly where I knew where they would be. The driveways were exactly where I knew they would be. After we turned down that road from the main street in downtown, at exactly the light I knew we needed to turn on. All in a town I had never seen. So that's not deja vu. That's spirit communication. We do know that our spirits receive communication from our guardian angel and others within our STC who provide us tools and lessons that we learned in previous lives necessary for us to continue and learn and grow and mature in this life. Just like we talked about trigonometry 1. Don't know exactly, even yet, what from that lifetime was so important for me, for my spirit, in this lifetime. But that was a major download from that lifetime, to the point that there were several distinct images that could not be argued with. Deja vu? No, I don't think so. Spirit communication? Definitely. Download of what we needed to know for tools and experiences to move forward and grow? I would say so. So if we're looking at the West, and we're looking at those things that are available to us, we're looking at our ancestors. We're looking at dissolving the outer world so that we can focus more on the inner world or on our spirit, so that we can allow this to not only be emotional, but a contact point, and turn that into a sacred channel. That's part of what I've been describing for you from the beginning. This sacred channel where I have communication with my wife, other spirit team members as well, but a lot of very good, close, detailed, strong communication from my wife on this sacred channel. That's the West. That's where we're looking at finding our ancestors. That's where we're looking at introspection, well, because we're going into the inner spirit and getting rid of the outer world around us. So the Native Americans and their introspection and ancestors. The Celtic with their spiritual transition. All of this is starting to make more sense when you put all the pieces together and look at it. Now, from our perspective, we've talked about a lot of things that we were talking about at the beginning when we looked at the details that encompass our spirit in our inner world. The West specifically kind of dealt more with the emotional body and the intuitive body, but it also talked about the connection that we have and the sacred channel that we have that helps us reflect on our quiet self, our memory, and it's definitely that sacred channel has become our soul's listening place. What we have available to us in all of this communication provides the details to what we've been talking about in the weeks previous, leading up to this point. The West invites us to confront our fears, delve into the mysteries of life, and embrace the unknown with curiosity and courage. Even if we as humans don't fully know our current life's plan for our spirit team does. Our STC knows every part of it. So embracing the unknown is not as ominous when we fully trust our spirit team and allow them to plan, organize, and facilitate our human journey for our spirit to learn, grow, and mature. If we utilize these characteristics from the West and apply them to our introspection and our communication, we are that much further towards making heaven real in our life.
We hope you learned something new about God's love and His resources during our time together. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. You can find our social media links and our contact info in the show notes. When you're commenting, please reference the episode number. Join us next time as we again search out the ways of making heaven real in this life with Gordon Merrill.